It was so brutal what happened, and of course you were completely cleared, entirely cleared, vindicated in court. But I don't know exactly what went on, but what felt so wrong to me is that you never went back to your old job on the radio, and that feels like there's no justice in that. Because, OK, personally, by the way, I don't think anyone should be sacked from a job until they're found guilty of something. You were taken off air, so I guess you were effectively suspended. Presumably they were still paying you, but you weren't able to actually do what you love to do. Then you were cleared. Well, surely you should be straight back. You should be in the job. I don't understand what happened.
Well, you would think that would sort of be common sense.
Well, well, it's not just common sense, it's justice.
Yeah, look, it became tough, and I think, as my QC said, you know, those kind of allegations and cases are toxic. And, of course, they don't just... As soon as you get cleared, getting cleared is a small part of the problem. And, in a way, you have to rebuild your life. But, you know, luckily I have a very supportive wife and family and what have you. And she actually taught me a lot because, you know, it's very true that... She was brilliant. And it's not just being a great supporting family or wife, it's giving you good advice. And I think the best advice for anyone that gets themselves in a bad situation is, look, sometimes life throws bad things at you that you can't control, but you totally can control how you react to it and respond to it. And that's, I guess, what... So you can either wallow and whinge about this stuff or you crack on with life. And so that's what I decided to do. And I've had some great friends and, you know, never lost a friend through all of this. And I've built some great new ones and some new working relationships. And I got to be honest, having some good fun.
No, and that is great. That is great. But there is a rush now. There is this weird hysteria the moment anyone is accused of anything. I'm not even talking about anything criminal now. And I just think corporates, it's down to corporates to actually start standing up for loyal staff members. This whole idea of cutting people off, I just don't agree with it. I think it's a really worrying part of the culture, because we do live in a culture where you should be innocent until you were found guilty.
Well, that was always... We've had 800 years of that. That was what the Magna Carta was all about, wasn't it? And then, weirdly, I guess it's part of the way that media and social media has really changed things.
Totally
You now actually become guilty until proven innocent instead of the other way around. It's sort of worrying. I know they're trying to address these issues. It's very difficult because social media is this incredible monster out there. We all love it and use it, and it's really beneficial for so many things. But that's the negative side of it that you just have to be wary of.
Well, you're back. You're looking better than ever. You're doing all of your work, so that's so great. But what worries me, because obviously I know you were in touch with people like Cliff Richard, and it hasn't been as easy for some of those men who've been found innocent, or been proven innocent, sorry, to rebuild their lives. But I'm so glad you've done so well. Now, Neil, I want to talk politics with you, because, of course, we are a news channel.
We are.
And actually, quite interestingly, for someone in the entertainment industry, you have been prepared to put your name on some thorny political issues that others may have kept out of. So I want to talk to you about a couple of them.
OK.
You backed Scotland remaining in the UK.
I did.
Why did you decide that was an issue you wanted to put your name to?
I just think if we start breaking up this union, this great...
I'm with you, by the way.
No, I was going to say, look, I think what's lovely about Great Britain is that we benefit from having all those different parts of it. We benefit from their cultures, their histories, and if we break everything down, I just think we will lose more than we gain, and they will lose more than they will gain.
Yeah.
That's my personal opinion. But I'm English, right? But actually, I'm British.
Totally.
So I think of myself... I don't think of myself as necessarily English. I like to think of myself as British. And amazingly, I like to think of myself as European. I am a European. I just didn't necessarily want to be part of the European Union, or it all got out of hand. So I think there are certain issues where people like to make everything black and white, but so often the real answer is it's a bit grey.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And it's really fascinating, actually, at the moment, isn't it, to see the polls. Yes, the SNP, very popular, but actually the Union increasingly popular too. So even though Sturgeon is very well liked as a political leader, I think she's going to find it very difficult to make this case for a second independence referendum.
Well, I agree, because, look, I think, again, they've made it black and white. You're either in or you're out. Whereas in reality, I can totally understand if you're Scottish. You want a Scottish government to be able to control a lot of Scottish decisions, not made down here in Westminster. But, on the other hand, as well, you might like being part of the Union. You probably can be both. It's not mutually exclusive.
No, indeed. Dr. Fox, you were a proponent of flat taxation, which is actually something that I don't think we talk about enough, because actually it could really transform so much of our economy, and our government obviously really struggling with the NHS burden. And you say that actually if you increase the limit where people start paying tax but charge everyone a flat tax of, say, 30%, you could solve a lot of issues.
I'm no economist. This is just from what I've read, and in other parts of the world.
I'd say 20%, though. By the way, okay. I'd go for 20%, not 30%. But it's a good.
But that
principle.
seems low. But what I'd say, but if you lift the threshold, so less people are paying tax, which helps people that are at the lower end of the wage earners, right? But then you have this flat tax. It makes it much more simple, okay? And you have there's no escape. There are no loopholes. You just go. This is it.
Yeah.
You pay your tax if you want to live in the UK. And I think it would simplify the tax system. Here's the thing, in the countries that do this, they raise more money than we do proportionately. So it may well work. The problem is tax has become, it seems, this incredibly political hot potato. So if you were to, for example, suggest paying less tax, well, each party uses it as a sort of a hot potato to pass around. And I don't think they ever really discuss it properly. I think they just use it in political fights too much. The Tories want to, they want to save too much money, and Labour, everyone says, want to tax people too much. And you think, actually, neither of those are probably correct. It would be really interesting to have a debate not run by the political parties, but run by some incredible economists who look at this neutrally and work out what would be the best way to run tax in this country so that it's the most efficient, the most fair, and it benefits the country the most.
Totally. I'm with you. Now, speaking of people who don't want to be in the UK, we were looking just in the last hour at this very bizarre tour that Harry and Meghan have been doing in New York. What's with these two, Neil? What's with them?
It's a mess, isn't it? It's a mess, and I actually feel sorry for Harry because, look, Harry clearly fell in love and he married this lovely girl and they had this dream fairy tale wedding that the nation loved. I was going in and out of Windsor at the time watching the preparations, and it was an incredible day and a very joyous occasion. I think the country was very happy for this young man with everything he'd been through and losing his mum, that he'd found this lovely girl that he was madly in love with. And then I think actually it seemed to really start having problems when they did that South African tour.
Yeah.
And she was doing that, I'm glad you've asked a question about me. And it just looks like a mess. I mean, look, none of us really know what's going on. And people are very quick to judge, always, on all these issues. Everyone's got an opinion. The reality is only him and his family probably really understand what was actually said, what's been said, and what the real deal is. I kind of hope he's got some good friends and some members of his family that are reaching out behind the scenes going, can we have a chat? I mean, they're a family and it's a mess. You'd like to think that someone is trying to sort it out. But that tour, I mean, what's going on in America is slightly embarrassing, I have to be honest. And as you said earlier on, she's an actress doing a very good acting role. And I think in America you have celebrity. Over here we have celebrity and a royal family. And it's a very different kind of fame, clearly. And they don't mix very well. And I think sometimes he's looking a little bit embarrassed about the situation. I think whoever's advising, and this is from someone on the inn, they just said they've got celebrity PR looking after them rather than royal PR. And so some of the choices they seem to be making, or shows he went on, like the James Corden show, brilliant show, but not necessarily right for your first big appearance in America. It just was cringe. It was almost as cringeworthy for me as when I was a kid watching Edward and Andrew and Fergie do that It's a Knockout thing they did back in the 80s.
Oh, my goodness, I know.
But I literally was looking at the TV when he was doing Corden going...
Don't reinvent the wheel. We know what the royal family is meant to do.
Yeah.
And don't reinvent the wheel. Now, we've got some great questions coming in from our viewers, so let's get to them. Question from Twitter. Given the number of radio stations in the UK, is there a need for the BBC to provide a public radio service?
Well, I think there's still a need for the BBC, but a much reduced BBC. They have so many channels with all local radio, all the national channels they have. If they've got problems with budgets, and certainly I'm getting more and more irritated about paying a licence fee, you know, when there's so much other choice out there now that I want to pay for, and I have no choice about paying for my TV licence. I think they have to look at the financing of the BBC and how they're going to actually sort that out. And they need to reduce the number of TV channels, they need to reduce the number of radio stations they have, and limit it to the ones that are not catered for commercially, personally.
I completely agree. Matt, also via Twitter, asks, do you agree that the 1990s were the pinnacle of human existence?
Well, I think it just depends on when you were born. I mean, there are lots of people that have grown up saying the 50s were great if you were that old, or 60s or 70s. I think that when you're a teenager, maybe from your teenage years into your early 20s, were probably your greatest decade, because they were free, you had no real responsibilities.
See, that's the 90s for me. That's the 90s for me, but it is really interesting because I speak to people who are older and younger than me, and a lot of them do agree with me, actually, that when you look at it across the whole, the 90s, what a great decade for music. And I'm so envious of you because you were at the heart of it. You know, when you were doing the Pepsi chart, I mean, think of all of the phenomenons that you went through, you know, Britpop, the Spice Girls. It was an incredible era.
It was, actually. Because there were some really interesting battles going on. There were lots of boy bands and manufactured bands. You had the Spice Girls, who were a phenomenon. You had Blur versus Oasis and everything that came out of Manchester in between. And then you had also the start of club culture as well, and the super clubs and Ibiza, and there was a brilliant mix of when I look back on the charts.
Because you did your midnight show, didn't you? That's how Dr. Fox actually
Dr. Fox started with the late night surgery, exactly. And do you know what? You kind of go look at those times and listen to the charts. You had 40 songs of every different type of music, and I think if I was to listen to a similar chart now, it sounds a bit samey. It's all very quite
streaming's changed it all, because it all has to be international. I mean, I love streaming, don't get me wrong, but I think it's been very damaging for the variety of music we get. And it's been very damaging for British music because, yes, we have huge international stars, but for a new British act to break through, they have to try and get the international following, which is why, by the way, you have all songs and they all sound the same now. It's that sort of electronic thing, and, you know, the Dua Lipa thing. And it's
You're sounding old saying that. Don't say that, Dan.
I am old now. I just want to listen to music from the 90s all the time. And a final question, also from Twitter. Is your new radio idea something that's never been done before?
My new radio idea? What, the app one? Yes, it is. It's actually, well, look, am I reinventing the wheel? No, I'm just taking some different wheels and putting them together. OK, but into a new vehicle. That's probably the best way I can describe it.
Welcome to the GB News YouTube channel. You can watch us live 24 hours a day, catch up on your favourite shows, and join in the conversation in the comments below.
Don't forget to subscribe and you'll never miss any of our exclusive content.